What a nice
All
song.
right, welcome to the TheoryCraft Cutting Edge Podcast Week 2. This week we have Dylan, Poon, and Design. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Well, we did our intros last week, but just a quick hello, Dylan.
Hello. Before I introduce myself, I want to ask why there were ads on the stream. What the hell? I thought this was free content. Okay.
I gotta make 3
Also,
cents.
okay. Well, reasonable. Well, my name's Dylan or Electro. I am one of two raid leaders in TheoryCraft. Some may say the better or the worst one, depending on who you ask. And yeah, that's me. Hello.
Poon.
I am the guild leader of TheoryCraft, former raid leader. I don't do it anymore because imagine raid leading. Am I right? uh,
Smile.
I, I play tank, all the tanks except for Prout Warrior because no one plays Prout Warrior because it's fucking shit.
We're gonna get a new guest next week.
Well. And also, I want to give a shout out to Tass in the chat, mine brother.
Damn.
Uh,
Big fan of ovens.
Oh, and Vice. Shout out to Vice. Vice
Okay, okay.
Cutie. Imagine having Cutie in your name. But yeah. Anyway,
all right, Design.
What's up? My name's Design. I was a mediocre cutting edge raider, and then Dylan asked for my assistance this tier, so I decided to come up in the cut, and I'm here to carry them this tier. And that's about it.
Every word that came out of his mouth was correct. In fact, ask is actually probably the wrong way to describe it. It was more like begging.
Yeah.
I definitely got on my hands and knees, just begged.
Confirmed on hands and knees and asked moderately convincingly.
Yeah. Convincing enough, though.
Kind of weird.
Kind of weird. Didn't have anywhere else to go? Kind of weird.
Glad we could be your last resort.
Do you have any friends, Design, you could have come raid with us?
Oh, I think there's I have a shaman. You might want.
Yeah. I heard there's some bugs with server transfers, though. It might be kind of hard.
Yeah, server transfers, you know how they be.
Kind of weird. So yeah.
All right. Well, there's a huge uproar this week about legendaries, and I want to go over that a little bit later. But let's start off with talking about next week. It's officially time. Mythic Plus is coming out. Castle Nathria. I'm hyped. What about you guys?
Definitely probably the most hyped I've ever been going into a raid tier. Actually, maybe Nighthold, but this is pretty close to that feeling. I just, oh man, I've been waiting for this for months. So
Yeah, I feel like
I think
we've.
they should have pushed it back.
I feel
Yeah.
like we've never been
first
more
off,
prepared for a tier. And hopefully all our preparations help and we get
yeah.
things done more efficiently than
Yeah,
other
I
tiers.
did the pineapple raid minigame like 30,000 times. I'm ready.
If somebody posts that again in Discord, I'm honestly going to delete the server.
Please do.
It's like
Honestly, like part of like the preparation, is like that keeps me excited. Is we're as prepared as we can be, but we still haven't really seen the fights from beginning to end. So even for us, there's going to be a lot of
That is
a lot
true.
of exciting things about it.
That is true.
I'm pretty excited to see how some people react to progression, seeing as not everyone is actually progged for, so it's gonna be pretty good to see.
Yeah, I'm excited for those players too. Like this is their first time stepping into like a mythic raid, and they seem to be doing extremely well, especially in pre-patch and running their mythic zeros and stuff. So I'm excited to see how they perform.
I'm probably in the minority in thinking this. I'm pretty sure you guys think differently, at least to a certain extent. But I feel like there's only so much. Obviously, there's only so much you can do on paper as a when it comes to being prepared for a fight. But I feel like the in-person knowledge is infinitely more useful than writing stuff down. I feel like, I mean, it'll be useful, but there's nothing beats the intuition of knowing where to go, knowing where everyone sits in the boss room, and doing the fight together, and knowing the mechanic lineups and stuff, and seeing it for yourself. Even watching on a video, I feel like there's only so much you can actually process. I feel like just the in-person experience you get from doing a raid fight just speaks volumes, and that's what's going to make the first week so important before Mythic.
Yeah, the hands-on experience.
The thing with hands-on though is like you want to give yourself every opportunity to be able to digest all the information. So even though going in and actually playing out the fight is probably the majority of the way you get the feel for it, you also don't want to ignore like the other parts.
Yeah, we've gone over the fights. Me and Brandon at least have gone over the fights like a million times at this point. But like no matter how much we look at it, until we step in the boss fight and do it like for a few weeks, we're not gonna like actually have the boss mastered until like we get our hands on it. But at least like we know what's supposed to happen. Like a mechanic's not gonna come out of nowhere and be like, "Oh, I didn't know that was there." It's
Yeah. I mean, it's like going to the gym. Like you could go to the gym every day and work out as hard as you can, like lifting weights and be there in the moment. But if you go back home and just like eat like shit and fucking, you know, do other things wrong, like it's not really gonna help you.
That's true.
So it's good to take part of like do everything, not just like focus on one thing.
yeah.
Sometimes the boring stuff, like it's kind of just, even though it's boring to sit there and watch a fight, it's kind of it's still useful.
Yeah, my philosophy was at least if you just know what the boss looks like, it's a plus in my book. Like any information that you get out of those videos or reading upon like the fights, like that's a benefit.
You don't want to go in completely blind.
Pim, as your HR representative, I have to remind you that you don't want to go in
You
um
don't want to.
unable to see.
Can't
Yeah.
use the B word anymore on Twitch.tv.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, that was very ableist of me.
Please
So
be a little
ableist.
bit more respectful.
That was just a peek behind the curtains of what we have to deal with. That was scary.
Now, speaking of blind, I don't know how I'm going to be able
Okay.
without eyes, but I'm gonna give it my best for sure.
I mean, aren't you blind? That's the reason you wear those dark pictures in your in your picture right there.
The dark glasses
I think so.
The dark
Yeah.
glasses in your picture.
makes sense now.
I didn't know that they're dark because I can't see, but
Oh,
thanks for
Oh,
letting me know.
fair.
true,
You're
true,
welcome.
true. That's why you play Lee Sin, right?
Ooh.
Um, so Blizzard announced the Mythic Plus schedule for next week, or just this season 1 in general.
Yes.
We're gonna be capped at +10 for next week. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
That's for end of dungeon loot, and then but you can get your weekly 14 done, and you can get your 226 by the end of the week on the vault.
Okay, so you can push keys, but you just won't get the gear.
You won't get.
Yep.
Yeah, the loot's not gonna go higher than a 10.
Ooh.
It basically nothing's changing next week from how it's going to be the rest of the season, apart from the fact that just this week, the only end of dungeon loot you can get up to is Mythic 10. But you can
That's
still,
still quite a lot for
yeah.
the first week.
I was surprised they went that high. Honestly, people were predicting like +6 or +4 or something.
Yeah, I was
But,
under the
yeah.
impression it was going to be a 5.
I think that's probably what they were going for. And then we can talk about it later with PvP, but since PvP can only be restricted so much just to how the system works, they ended up raising it a bit because PvPers might get a bit ahead and they don't want people to think that PvP is the only way to get good gear week 1.
Speaking of
Yeah, I was
PvP,
actually thinking that was the reason. I got.
Poon, you mentioned the cap for PvP conquest is 550.
Yeah. So you can only get up to 550 this week. I think from what I read, I know there's been like mixed things about it. It only goes up 550 each week, but apparently it doesn't roll over. But I think the max that you like it cap the first week, the highest you can cap the next week is 550, and as like a total of 11 or 12. Uh, but it doesn't like carry over. Apparently, I don't know. It's pretty weird. I think there might be like a bug with how Conquest is actually gonna roll over. Because I think at this rate you can only Vice said you can only get a weapon if you like wait 10 weeks or some crazy shit.
Oh no, they rolled that back. The weapons had a achievement requirement for
Okay.
getting 5K honor, but Ian just made a post about it, responding to it, saying that they were removing that because that was just a
Thank
part of the old
God.
system. Yeah, that would have been
So
unfortunate.
how many weeks will it be now to be able to get a weapon?
It should be as long as you can get the honor or the conquest to buy it out of the vendor. I think
How much are they?
for me, the one-handed swords 1350, the two-handed staff is 1800, the offhand's 450.
Yeah, so like
I
3 weeks
watched
per weapon.
Yeah, I watched some video. I think it was like a Mitch stream clip or something, Mitch Jones or whatever, one of the PvPers, and they were talking about how it was cool that they could get. It seemed like they could get full PvP gear, fully equipped in like 7 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was they said, but yeah.
I wonder if it would be, if that's the case, if it would be worth to just not buy any conquest gear for the first few weeks and just get your weapons. Because like for me, I need 2 weapons, and the odds of me getting 2 from raid is honestly gonna be pretty low for a long time. If I
Mm-hmm.
just get like 1 conquest one and then 1 I'll like have to bite the bullet for
I know
a few weeks, but
there's some classes that also the PvP trinkets abyss for it too. So that's also gonna be pretty interesting to see. And I mean the regular honor trinket for me is Biss.
mhm.
I know it is for some other classes too, and it's like it has such a high uptime. It's pretty ridiculous.
Hmm.
The proc rate. So I think it's up like 50% of the time when I run like a dungeon, which
Yeah,
is pretty nuts.
I simmed that, and it didn't do too well for me because I have really good raid trinkets. But yeah, it looked interesting when I saw that proc. I was really curious because a primary stat proc for 20 seconds, like
Yeah.
holy shit, that's like pretty insane.
Like I'll probably rock like defensive trinkets in raid, but when I'm doing keys, like that is it is so nice.
Hmm. Yeah, I feel especially for you, Dylan, when you mentioned that because weapon DPS classes like melee DPS and stuff, where weapon DPS matters, that getting that eye level super early, especially with the raid having those tokens instead, is probably definitely the way to go for sure. Because weapon damage is such a crazy stat for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that's probably what every melee should do. Or at least if you have more than 1 melee weapon, like if you're 2 wielding. I don't know if it like any spellcasters use like an offhand and a wand or whatever it is.
Depending on stats that everything comes in, because the season 1 stats are kind of dumb, but you're gonna need every sort of stat with diminishing returns of secondary stats this expansion. Generally, the rule of thumb at the end of like last expansion that I realized was that everyone was just all the casters were just going one hand offhand because you could get a socket in both of them. You can only have one socket in the staff,
That's
but
true.
in a sword and an offhand, you can just put 2 sockets in there. That's just generally more overall stats you're gonna
Can
have.
you enchant an offhand?
Nope, it's just the one enchant. But you still, even though it's a one-hander, you get the full enchant you get on a staff. So realistically, there's no actual reason to have a staff as a
Yeah.
caster because you could just socket. The meta is just to socket things. And even though sockets are less DPS, as long as you're not losing that much that you would gain from the socket, extra socket in stats because you chose that weapon, it's definitely worth it. It's like socket meta, still socket meta, it's just at the min max level.
You can also like just hold your conquest gear after your raid runs to see if you get like either the offhand or the wand, and then just buy the other with the conquest and have both right off the bat.
Mhm.
I know for brewmasters we can now equip one-handers, and a lot of people are running it to see like how it feels. I know we get more auto damage, and we get that extra enchant on that, and
Yeah.
but our ability power goes down.
So
Mhm.
back in WoD, Brandon, brewmasters could duel back then too. I think it was WoD or it was Pandaria. I can't remember which. But they used to be able to dual wield, and it was actually amazing.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm just gonna like save all the one-handers and two-handers I get, and then just like play with both of them and see how it feels.
Yeah, it's honestly worth. Or what's your main stat for brewmaster? Is it crit?
Verse crit. That's what
Yeah.
I'm running at least. I know
That's
you could
I
go verse
think
mastery, but I like verse crit better.
I think brewmasters are the only tanks right now that aren't trying to stack haste.
Yeah, like our haste is our worst.
Yeah. Every other tank right now is like, give me as much haste as possible, please.
Isn't that how it used to be for Brewmaster when you had to keep the uptime, just like a prop pally? But now they have it in just baked into some of your abilities, so you don't actually need the haste for the whatever it's called,
No,
mitigation.
you never really wanted haste just because like you your energy, like you don't care about how quickly you get it back because it honestly used to be a pretty slow playstyle before they
Mm,
like fixed some of the kit. There
gotcha.
was like a little downtime, but now there's like no downtime even with uh with not having any haste. Like you could have as low haste as possible. There's still no fucking downtime with that class.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
there's just so many fucking abilities. It's insane. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it feels nice. Like going from Prot Warrior to playing DK in the pre-patch and now Brewmaster. Like Brewmaster just feels so good. It was very overwhelming when I first picked it up because there were just so many abilities. But now that I've gotten like the groove of it, it feels smooth. And also, back to your question earlier, like Keg Smash reduces the CD of brews, so like those are always up, like sub 30 seconds for Celestial Brew, and Purify is up like every 10 seconds on average, like or less, with the legendary. So yeah, like having that haste reduce those ability cooldowns is just unnecessary.
Yeah, it's really nice. Brewmaster's definitely one of the best fleshed out tanks, just by what they have in their kit. I wish they would do the same with Guardian Druids, but fuck me, right?
True. uh, and
Well, it's good that we have the tanks we did, because that mobility is going to be juicy.
yeah, I'm really excited to see how our synergy works out on some of these fights, especially with dropping off bombs and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll definitely help on a couple of the fights.
Something I do want to talk about going into like the raid is gear and how little gear drops. And so there's like making sure your main is in the raid. We're gonna go over this tomorrow before raid, but just making sure your main is your main and bringing that to the raid nights, because gear is scarce. And if we give it to a main and then you decide, oh, you don't want to play that class anymore, it's just like a waste of gear.
Yeah, I think it's like in this expansion, every piece of gear you get is just way more valuable than other expansions. So, um, the like bringing in alt to scheduled raid days is just like it just can't really happen because I mean, unless you're like that is gonna be your main, there's just the gear's just gonna go to waste or take it from somebody who really needs it. And every piece of gear is just that much more valuable. So alts kind of have to do things on their own. Otherwise, it's just taking from the core.
Yeah, I mean, people just have to realize their ults are just gonna be lower elo within their mains. I mean, they don't have to be until like once Mythic raid starts, then there's just no way for you to keep it up unless you raid in 2 different raids. But I think that kind of goes well with the legendaries too. Like, unless you are 100% for sure no, and like you're in your class Discord, and like they recommend you to like go ahead and craft your legendary because they don't think anything is gonna get touched. I don't even think people should be crafting their legendaries, like unless that, because I feel like some people will just play flavor of the month classes. They'll get that legendary that they think is going to be super OP, and then what happens when Mythic Week comes out and they touch the game right before World first starts, and they like start nerfing fucking legendaries.
Hmm. I've
Yeah.
been looking around on different classes, just out of curiosity when people are making videos about their legendaries and stuff. Because like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, there's just a flood of videos of people saying like giving advice on if you should cover half legendaries or not. And I there's probably some more I didn't see thoroughly, but the only one I know for certain is Boomkins because they're legendary. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's supposed to be like worth 25% of their DPS, and all the Boomkin players are just like, don't craft it yet. It's going to get nerfed. Like when it comes to something like that, it's definitely going to be the case. And I kind of feel the same way about Glacial Fragments. I was going to craft that tomorrow, but it's AOE damage. It goes from our worst legendary, pretty much our worst legendary, to 3 to 5 targets. The unequivocally 35 to 40% above percent better than all the other legendaries. Good, like best. But the thing is, Blizzard usually doesn't worry about AoE 3 to 5 target situations like that unless it's breaking the game. Like it's something that is breaking the game. So it's highly unlikely that they're really gonna nerf that. We'll just have to see unless there's just Glacial Fragment and Frost Mages just destroying the raid, and they'll probably nerf it. That's why they're waiting for heroic testing and stuff like that before they actually tune stuff, see if it's an actual problem. But I think I'm relatively safe to craft my legendaries. I don't really feel too bad about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple tank classes where like you just don't want to craft a legendary right now, just because you don't know like what tuning is gonna happen. Like I know Guardian Druids, Demon Hunters. I think Pallies, like depending on, I know they just had like some of their stuff nerfed with like their conduits and shit.
Yeah, I first heard about holding off on legendaries on last Tuesday. Simor let us know in our group that it might be smart to hold off on building our legendary. Um, and then the very next day, Preach came out with that video saying, "Is it is it smart to hold off?" And I got impatient and I just crafted mine anyway, and I just didn't care. Uh, but I don't really care if they nerf it. If they nerf anything about my legendary, it's gonna be the damage, and I don't really care too much about the damage part of it.
Mm. Yeah,
Um,
I can say for certain that I was super greedy in crafting my legendary because it's my single target one, and I crafted it, and the only thing we were doing last week was zeros anyways. So I obviously didn't need it, but there's no way I was getting nerfed, and I was just an impatient, greedy mother. So I just decided to craft it because that was cool.
Yeah, like on beta there for like rogues, there was one legendary that was just like far and above all the others, and it got nerfed like 5 times, and now it's like very like balanced between the top 2 options. So I'm curious whether they're gonna touch any of the rogue legendaries because the top 2 are like pretty interchangeable. Like one of them is like maybe um like 100 DPS increase on single target, but is bad on cleave, and the other one is like the one slightly below it that's better on cleave. So it's like really just depends on whether you value your sim higher than you value cleave damage. Um, and I can't really imagine them touching it because it probably took. And they already like did so much balancing and tuning to the rogue legendaries to like get them to this point that it'd be very surprising if they touched any of them further.
There's also classes like specs like BM Hunter. I know Marksman has like a really good legendary that might get nerfed. BM Hunter has like a fucking terrible legendary that has to do with their tar trap and like tossing in your fucking flare to like light them on fire or some shit.
That's dope.
That
It
sounds
does
pretty
kinda
cool.
sound sick, actually.
Warrior. I mean, like the concept is, but like, come on, like that's gonna be like part of your rotation and fucking like mythic raids. Like, it just seems stupid. Like for that, it's like cool, but for that to be the best one, I don't know. I mean, it sounds kind of good in Mythic Plus, but just kind of awkward to use. And then you have like warriors that are like, I don't know why anyone would play warrior.
Okay, dude.
Yeah.
Sorry, Vice, if you're listening.
Sorry, Vice, if you're listening. I know you're listening, and I just want to tell you.
Well, I mean, he agrees with me. Like, there's just no like, why would you play warrior right now, other than you just like the class?
Well, I
Mm.
think warriors are one of those classes that are actually gonna. I mean, they're gonna get buffed most likely.
Well, yeah, for sure.
I
It's
think
just
it sucks that they don't have like one of their class legendaries isn't one of their best.
yeah. I just hope that they do get buffed, and they're just like one of the better melee because it's always nice. Like I feel like when warriors are tuned well, like all the other melee classes are tuned well.
hmm Yeah, I was definitely going for warrior for my ult because before Shadowlands, I was like contemplating if I was actually gonna main my warrior. I was like, I don't know, warrior's pretty fun. When I came back in 8.3 for the second time, I didn't pick up my mage at all. And I just played warrior, and I had a really fun time on Fury, especially. I didn't really play arms, but Fury especially is just I love Fury. And then I was like, yeah, I'll just play Frost. And then I saw the warrior stuff, and I guess I'm like, yeah, I guess my warrior's just there for transmog. I'm
Yeah.
not playing him at all, unfortunate. So I'm preying on those buffs, but
Yeah, I
probably
haven't heard anything good about arms.
okay, good. Good
I
one.
don't know what the purpose of having generic legendaries is. Like, does anyone even get excited about if the a generic legendary is their best? Like, I
Um,
just want to play a class that doesn't have an actual good class legendary.
Oh, you mean like not even class specific? Like you're not even talking about the ones that you can multi-spec. You're talking about just like
Like
this
Safuz.
has nothing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Like those, if that's your best legendary, it that just feels bad for you because other
Yeah.
classes just have legendaries that enhance the gameplay of their spec that feels good to use. But if it doesn't, if it's just like a blanket effect, and that's the one that's best for you, I think that just like downgrades the quality of the game while playing that class in general, which
Mm-hmm.
makes me wonder why they even like make those generic ones in general. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there's a player that's like, oh shit, Safuz, let's go, for, but for any player that has like any sense of like min maxing or like knowing how their rotation works, I feel like almost everybody would prefer an actual class legendary.
Yeah. Um, I was reading up on that, and obviously Sims are Sims. The raid isn't even out, but I know there's a lot of actual warrior players who are sticking with it for whatever reason. They're talking about the Deathmaker, Rampage Siegebreaker legendary is really good, and for whatever reason, Arms is talking about Unhinged, but I'm pretty sure Unhinged doesn't do enough damage for Arms. But I think Fury is okay with going Deathmaker as their best legendary.
That's the one that applies
Rampage
Siegebreaker, right?
Yeah, Rampage 30% chance to apply Siegebreaker for 6 seconds. And depending on how like often you can actually get to get that to proc, obviously you're not going to get a lot of Rampages off early in the tier, especially, or even just in the entirety tier, as opposed to the rest of the raid. I think that could be a really crazy legendary, and a lot of them are talking about just making Deathmaker and going for it. And as long as Unhinged gets a bit of a buff for arms, I think they can easily go Unhinged as well. But it just comes down. I mean, yeah, it's all about practical use of the legendaries as opposed to Sims, but it's not looking very good for Warriors. They need a lot to go with. And I don't think just straight buffing the legendaries by 1,000,000% is going to work either, because you don't want your entire class to just be you're legendary, and if you don't have it, you're screwed. Which I
Yeah.
think is might. Hopefully, they don't do that with buffs and nerfs, but we'll have to see, I guess.
Yeah, they're gonna do a lot of tuning this week, right? They said,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Yeah.
hopefully they all come out before Mythic Raid, so people know what to go.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what happens. I was just going through the hotfixes right now and just seeing if there's like any huge buffs or nerfs that happen this week.
Mm-hmm. They mentioned they were saving all the heroic once they get all the heroic stats of people. They'll settle down and try to fix up all the ideas of buffs and nerfs they have and finalize on before Mythic.
Yeah, so
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
basically, if you don't want your class to get nerfed, just limp dick it in heroic and see what happens.
Exactly.
I really hope. I, I don't know. I hope that's
I
not
don't
what it
think
comes to.
anyone's gonna do that because egos are too big. But yeah. Either way, you can't expect everybody to just rally together and use one button for the entire rotation, unless you're a hunter, of course. But yeah, I don't think you can. I don't think that will happen. Probably, I'd be very impressed if it.
Imagine the whole like warrior Discord just is like, all right, we're only using Bloodthirst. We're gonna have 100 DPS. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, just completely. Everyone just bands together to do 0 damage, and then just get the biggest buff of all 2016. I don't even. We're on the topic of buffs and nerfs. I don't even want to talk about mage buffs and nerfs. I might.
Oh yeah, we don't
I
even
might
want
You
go
to.
care
crazy.
about that mage
You
nerf?
don't. You don't want to get me started on that.
4%.
I mean, is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Frost went from the easy choice of the best, not by too much, and now it's the worst choice, pretty much, especially
Yeah.
in regards to Sims. But practically, everything's gonna be fine. The balancing's fine, even though they're technically the worst, and they'll probably be
Is fire
second.
really?
Fire's really good, and Fire's just how Fire works. It has a disorient with Dragon's Breath. It has a cheat death with Cauterize, and it has an execute phase that they can completely do on the move with Searing Touch talent. So that's why a lot of them, even when everyone's playing Frost, mostly a lot of people were playing Frost in BOD and Old Deer. That's why a lot of people were playing Fire regardless on the last 2 bosses, because those Jaina and Cahoon had like crazy execute phases and a lot of movement. You'd want really good movement, and Frost was just not that, even though it was generally good to bring on most fights. Fire just has so much utility with the cheat death and the execute on the move. It was just way too good to pass up.
Sardonathrius might have like one of those execute phases
Mm-hmm.
because the platform gets cut off by a third every, I don't know, minute or so.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like
Sort
a
of
soft enrage.
like Avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those. I love those super hard enrages like Sludge Fist, where if you run out of pillars, you
Oh,
die.
Sludge I lost.
Dude, that's gonna be. Honestly, I have a weird feeling it's gonna be a pushover boss, but hopefully it's kind of exciting. We'll have to see.
Well, apparently they just buffed it, but
I saw that. I was kind of shaking in my
I think
boots
it'll
when I
be
saw
definitely
that.
be a pushover in heroic. I
Yeah.
think I'm hoping that in Mythic it's I
Like a
want it to
Croesus.
be a fight where most guilds are killing it with 10 seconds left, if not less. I want it to be like a butt clenching fight because those are the ones that just feel the best for sure.
Yeah, no, it seems like the only change in Mythic is that we get AoE under us we get AoE under us that breaks,
Mhm.
and we have to spread for it. So that's gonna be interesting, especially when people are linked. But honestly, say what you want about like Feta Devourer, but I feel like they get boss tuning like either too far on the tough end or they get it like just right. Like there's a lot of like Croesus kills, the Jaina kills where you were skipping out on the ice blocks and just killing Jaina. Like they get these they get them really nice, like super close,
Yeah,
exciting fights. It's
the boss fights.
Mhm.
I I like that there's not that big of a difference between there's not gonna be that big of a difference between Sledge Fist and um heroic and mythic because I feel like DPS check bosses should be just DPS check bosses. I feel like that's what makes them exciting is that it comes down to just pumping out the maximum damage, because most of the raid isn't like that, and it's good to have fights where damage is actually matters.
I love those. I love those just straight patchwork fights. And honestly, it only takes just one mechanic. For this is probably a bit of an extreme example, but one of the literal hardest on release fights in uh, Battle for Azeroth was Fed Devourer on Mythic, and they had to giga nerf that to the ground. And the only mechanic they added was an extra little ad you had to kill, one of the extra little feast ads you had to kill.
Yeah.
That was the only mechanic they added, and it just made it one of the most ridiculous fights just because of the overtuning of the ad health and stuff like that. So we'll see. We'll have to see what this does, but hopefully it's everyone hopes it's exciting and not super overtuned, stuff like that.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Good news. The Great Vault. We can start working towards it next week for the week after. We'll
True.
get our 10 heroic bosses probably. Most likely, a majority of us. A majority. There's gonna be some PvP we gotta do, and then hopefully people get their Mythic Pluses done. To clarify for anybody who doesn't know, you can only choose one piece of the 9 options. I know there's a lot of people that were upset when they found out that you don't get all 9 pieces, and it just broke the game if that would have happened.
9 pieces instead of 1. Huge.
But I like the system better since it's you choose which piece you get instead of, just random like dog shit from your cache.
Yeah, the choice definitely fixes a lot of issues, honestly, because it's still exciting. And that was one of the best parts about Mythic Plus caches. Every single reset, you were like, there's that adrenaline of like, oh, we get to open the cache, let's get it. Even though like every single time, you're always pretty much disappointed every single time without fail. And especially for like, it definitely solidified in the meta with things like Cut of Death for melee DPS and having your Biss comes from here, and you get one chance of one piece of loot a week to get your Biss sword. So it was pretty annoying. So if any situation comes up like that again, where they probably want to put interesting things like Cut of Death in the game, that it's not as painful for players because they have multiple avenues, multiple choices of getting loot and that specific piece. So hopefully it's way more of a band-aid fix. It's more of like a splint fix where they just completely repaired one of the key fundamental rewards systems in the game to being a much better system.
Yeah, like I have never been outside of this expansion. Luckily, I've never been lucky with gear. And I think I've maybe once since Legion gotten something that I like really wanted. Like I don't remember like ever getting something like best in slot. Like maybe I get like a hand that's like a slight upgrade, but it's like who really wants a hand? I want a weapon or a trinket or something. And if you really don't get that and you have all 9 of your vault stuff unlocked, then maybe you just need to like contact a priest or something for some I don't know, for some divine blessings, because you're just unlucky. But most people should hopefully be able to pay.
I have a question. So for the Mythic Plus one, is it the 3 options you get are the Mythic Plus items, right? From the dungeon, and then the
Yep.
10 raid is from the raid.
Yep.
And then PvP. Okay.
Yeah, so the only options, so you'll get, if you did all 9, you'll get 3 choices at either a PvP item, 3 choices of a raid item, or 3 choices of a Mythic Plus item. So if you're specifically, if the only piece you need to get your Biss at your all Mythic gear and you just have one item to get, whether it's whatever, PvP plus, and let's say it's in a dungeon, then once you are Biss, the only thing you really have to do is like your PvP or wherever your Biss comes from. You don't have to do any of the other ones. And it's still up in the air if you should do everything for every little bit of gear you can. Obviously, the best of the best are going to do that. But honestly, if the margin for what's an upgrade and what isn't is very slim, just from the secondary stats diminishing now. Like I heard I did some simmings when we were doing our best list, and the difference between my worst combination of gear in the raid and my best combination of gear in the raid was like in a single digit of a percent. It wasn't anything crazy outside of like trinkets and stuff. So gear is it's just gonna be so much easier this expansion, thankfully.
I like that too. I like how like you can get your gear and then that's it. Not like the Titan forging spamming Mythic Plus for hours and hours and hours just to get that one piece with like a socket and like 20 plus Titan forge. I like how it's just you get that piece and then you're good to go.
Yeah, I hated seeing people in Mythic gear when they've never stepped foot in a Mythic raid. Like knowing, like at the end of the tier when we're all decked out in Mythic gear, you know that you're gonna be like one in 1,000 on most things you do in the game. Um, in terms of like how geared you are, and that's just gonna be such a sick feeling that I feel like it hasn't felt like that for a long time in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true.
Okay.
I just want to be able to get my fucking haste gear from PvP.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause there's just not a lot of good haste gear that drops for me for Castle Nathria. It's pretty lame.
Who needs haste anyway?
I'm in a weird spot where crit is almost more valuable to me than agility. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like close on my stat weights, and
Mm-hmm.
never like I it's not even like the rest of my like secondary stats aren't even close. And most raid gear it doesn't have like heavy crit for me. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's like a lot of haste and like mastery and stuff. So I may have to be doing a lot of like PvP to try to get like verse crit stuff.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like maybe I lucked out when I was doing all my simming and stuff, because maybe it's different for you guys or how it will be different. But I was looking ahead, and like mastery is definitely my worst stat right now. But once I'm in mythic gear, I'm gonna need mastery just because of the stat distribution. So hopefully, you guys luck out, and maybe I'm not sure if you know if it's like this for your classes or not, but like eventually, hopefully, all your worst stats will be your best stats. So you will actually be able to get good gear from the raid, hopefully. But I'm not sure
Yeah.
how that might work out for you guys.
Yeah, definitely, because like the two rings that or one of the rings that I have from the dungeon is a heavy crit verse ring, so it's got like more crit, and then it's got verse as a secondary, and they're like I just looking at all the heroic rings that I could possibly get from Nathria, I just feel like I wouldn't even want to replace this Mythic Zero piece with any of those heroic rings because my the stats on this are just gonna be better for my class than like getting like a haste master ring that's heroic that has
Mm.
no value to me.
Yeah, it's tricky when it comes to rings because there's no main stat, so that crutch that Blizzard's been working on with gearing being fixed is sort of null and void when it comes to rings since they don't have a main stat on it. I think I'm not sure if this is correct or not. I haven't heard anything, but if they bring back just the jewel crafting rings, I remember BFA jewel crafting rings were so sick because they had no main stat on them, and you can get them at the perfect stats, which was RNG. But in this situation with how crafting is going now, it would actually be you can choose the stats on it, which would cost people a lot less gold. So if that's the case where they do that again, that's gonna be super clutch. Because if you don't have any good rings and you haven't gotten any good rings, you could just go to jewel crafting at the end of the day, and you can just get your best out of jewel crafting, which could be pretty clutch.
Yeah,
Well,
rings are definitely my least favorite thing to gear because it's tricky like that.
Poon, you know what ring has a shit ton of haste on it?
What?
That Sire Denathrius ring.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I forget
Doesn't-
what the secondary stat was, but I remember like it was like 100 and something haste.
Yeah, I really want that ring. I just want to stack my neck and my rings with a shit ton of haste, and then just pray that I can get some good conquest gear.
Get
That's pretty much
PvP
all I
boy
want.
this expansion, huh?
Yeah, I'll have to. Unless like crit starts getting a little bit better for me.
Hopefully, because I feel
I'm
like
pretty.
It's looking
forcing.
like it's just gonna be haste verse.
I feel like forcing like a PvE to PvP is kind of lame. If you like don't want
I
to.
mean, honestly, I'm okay with it just because of the changes they made. If it's for like a piece or two, not like every slot, it would be pretty annoying. Because I am like the anti PvPer. I'm so bad at PvP. But they did a lot of changes where battlegrounds are a lot easier. You can get a lot of honor from battlegrounds and conquest from battlegrounds. So especially like epic battlegrounds where you can sort of autopilot. Um, so hopefully that's a nice avenue of people who aren't actual at heart PvPers who they can get a lot of their conquest and honor from. It's just those epic BGs because those came in clutch, especially for the weekly. Just doing epic BGs for the weekly was super nice. It was a lot less
Yeah.
strenuous than I thought it would be.
And the thing with the weapon, honestly, having that crutch or that I don't know if crutch is like kind of like having that safety net with PvP, being able to like because not having a weapon is make or break for a lot of melee classes, and I could just get super unlucky for weeks and weeks on end. And if there's no way to like just guarantee that I could get a decent weapon, I would be kind of screwed for a while. But
Mhm.
being able to just like build up that conquest for the weapons is actually pretty relieving
Mhm.
for me. And it's probably not going to be hard at all to get your conquest cap. It's just another thing to do.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I remember in at least in Pandaria, the first time I ever stepped into raid, I had full PvP gear because it was just like it was just easier to queue some arenas, get full PvP gear, and be around like I guess it was normal item level at that time.
Do you remember? Do you remember our grind, Dylan, in Caesar Borgmar, where we would go and like I think it was flex, right? Or no, first we
Mhm.
get like raid finder best in slot, and then we would go into flex like pugging best in slot, and then did we pug normal and I guess mythic wasn't out at the time, but we just grinded the shit out of Caesar Borgmar, and then we finally found our home.
Yeah, I regretted it ever since. But but yeah, like I liked the grind of that. I liked the grind of that back then, but honestly, it's just better now that that you can use PvP to fill out your gear set instead of instead of it being a faster way of gearing yourself in PV.
Honestly, I'm gonna say it. Blizzard can suck my dick. Bring back reforging, you fucking cucks.
I feel like that'd make gearing way too easy. I don't know. I didn't play back then, so maybe I'm just dumb and I
I
don't know
mean,
what I'm
it
missing.
honestly
But
made it harder because like you had to really try and figure out what piece you could like manipulate to make it the best for you.
mm,
Yeah, but that would be so easy nowadays with simming. It's
Well,
like
Simming was around back then too.
I don't remember simming being as easy as it is now.
definitely probably wasn't as prevalent. Like it's just exponentially advanced as the game's gone on, and we've just been getting a hold of better technology at the palm of our hands.
Bots having like a reforging tab where it just scans your gear and tells you how to reforge your gear to optimize it for your DPS.
They
I,
throw that right in top gear.
I guarantee that would happen. But I would also be okay with that, to be honest. I wouldn't. I like I liked reforging. It feels Especially, it would be good now because with gear being less prevalent, it just makes that piece even more. Like, that piece is valuable. You're gonna keep it for a while. You can optimize that piece with reforging, and GG.
Mm-hmm.
It'll feel a lot better to get pieces of gear.
For
That's
sure,
cool.
for sure.
I'm literally Jesus Christ.
All right, so it is our last 8 minutes. So let's start wrapping it up. I know there is a PSA design with the Darkmoon Fair that you brought up.
Oh yeah. Because of the Venari rep in the Maw, getting closer to your socket with the station you need from the Maw. The rep buff is up for Darkmoon. Darkmoon's open this week. It's especially important tomorrow because Maw dailies and Maw weeklies are much different. You get much more rep. Like I think it's like 10 times as much rep from your doing your weekly Maw as opposed to your daily Maw. So it's gonna be especially important to go to the Maw and go to Darkmoon, get your buff, and then do your Maw stuff. I think there's a super efficient way of doing it, like doing all the dailies. You get the Eye of the Jailer when you complete the dailies, so you do all your dailies one objective away from finishing it, and then you do a sweep of all the rares, and then you finish the everything with the Darkmoon Fair buff up. But as long as you complete the quests with your Darkmoon Fair rep buff up, it's gonna be super clutch. Just because of how much the rep is gonna scale with the 10% buff. So it'll be super clutch and get people infinitely more closer to getting sockets.
Do we
The sockets
know?
are nice.
Do we know like an estimate time that we're gonna be able to unlock those sockets? That like is it gonna be in a week or two?
It would probably, I think, if depending on, I haven't looked. People have been talking about how hard world firsts are grinding for it. They might be able to do it next week. I think for more casual players like us ish, like our speed, it will probably be like a week and an extra week and a half. So after next week, maybe a week and a half or so. So maybe like half a week, maybe a week after Mythic releases, I'd say. That's my prediction. But some people are grinding more than others. I'm not grinding too crazily, so I'd expect like maybe a week after Mythic. Thankfully, sockets are worth decent chunk less of DPS than they were last expansion, just because of how secondary stats are. So that's kind of nice. So it's not too crazy to get sockets, but sockets are still nice to get, and it's really cool that you can get them manually. You can grind them out instead of having to pray for RNG.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's really not that important because, like, if you don't even have like gear to socket, it doesn't matter if you like unlocked it yet or not. So it's like doing it at a more casual speed outside of world first is probably just the ideal because it gives you time to get like maybe a mythic piece or some pretty strong heroic pieces you'll hold on to for a while.
Yeah, you're
If you
only really gonna want to do it on that mythic piece that you get. That's like, it's probably gonna be with you for that whole fucking tier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or if you get something like heroic off of Sire Denathrius, it's gonna be months before you probably replace that, so you can just socket it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely not been grinding the reputation that hard. Like I just go and do my 2 dailies, get out.
Yeah, it's reasonable. I usually do like the dailies. I'll do the ability subjective, and I'll do a few of the rares as it comes up. But I'm not like super hard grinding. There's a lot of them. I figured it out, and then obviously all the world first raiders figured it out on their own as well. Once you get the Jailer 5 and you get the stacking debuff, you can zone into the into Torghast and out at Venari, and it'll reset your stacks. So you can
What the?
do that little bit of extra. And I think they've been spamming doing that every day.
They have
You
like 30-man raid groups just like
yeah.
perfectly optimized doing the mods. So dumb.
But that's the life they chose. So
Yeah.
that's not.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, for me, I just try to get my. I usually just get my thing to like tier 4. I don't even go to tier 5 and then just zone out for the day.
Mm.
I have the jailer.
Eye of the Tiger.
It's the
I'd
eye
say,
of
yeah.
the tiger. All right, let's wrap this up with our plans for next week. I know we're gonna do our raid night on Tuesday, Wednesday. we'll see where we're at on Wednesday night. Hopefully we're at Dinathrius or we kill him. That's like the perfect world. If not, I know a chunk of us are gonna be going in and getting AOTC. We're just gonna throw our heads into the wall.
Yeah, first thing we're gonna do is kick Task from the guild. Second thing we're gonna do
Wait a minute.
is raid Tuesday for Heroic, and we're gonna do that that morning normal the next day, because that'll be good to get people their like all their legendary recipes too, and some gear before the hard bosses of Castle Nathria on Wednesday Heroic. And then outside of that, we're probably just gonna, if we don't kill Daddy Denathi on Wednesday, we're gonna do it hopefully on Monday and an optional thing.
Sounds good to me. Any last thoughts before we close?
Buff Frost Mages, please. Give us like a 3%. Thank you.
Don't craft your legendary until Mythic reset when Mythic comes out.
All right. Well, Dylan, do you have anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I guess there's like this YouTube channel that like Design and I like work on together sometimes, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
It's called LOL Electro. It's it's got some pretty good videos on it, whatever.
yeah, it's
it
like not like a work down or anything. It's whatever.
Yeah, I mean the editing's a little sloppy, but like it's okay.
Yeah, it's what. Yeah. So.
If you want to check it out, like I'd appreciate it. If you don't watch League, just sub because you're my friend, and I'll bench you if you don't. So
Oh,
exactly. We keep track of that. We watch who everyone is sub. So get ready to get benched,
I have
ladies.
notifications on my phone from subscribers, so I'll know.
all right, Poon. Anything you want to shout out?
Nerf Frost Mages. Also, if you're watching this and you're in the guild, run your fucking maw, run your Torghast, and stop posting that Castle Pineapple. God damn it.
Castle Pinathria. So good.
Are you subtweeting anyone with that statement, Ben?
Yeah. This little hunter.
Nope.
Just a hunter.
Go practice your rotation some more. Get that marksman down.
Oh,
Why are you calling him out?
Okay, dude.
damn. Them's fighting words.
All right,
I hope you
Design.
didn't craft that legendary.
Design. You want anything to shout out?
I don't really have anything to shout out. YouTube.com/Electro, our YouTube channel. Design on Tachondrius. That's about it.
Also, just a PSA. Remember, it's your first playthrough, not a blind playthrough. All right, boys. Thank you.
Stop
Alright.
the steal.
Yeah, if you say the B word, you're getting benched.
All right, this podcast is going to be uploaded to the TheoryCraft YouTube channel, and my socials are Coach Trey on pretty much everything. And we'll see you guys next week. I'm going to be streaming Brewmaster Point of View for our Heroic Normals and probably even Mythic Plus. Twitch.tv/Coach Trey. And Poon, are you going to be doing a Demon Hunter Point of View Vengeance?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so twitch.tv/
Twitch.tv/Poon, whatever
Pooner.
my first name is.
whatever the hell it is.
Oh, fuck you.
And we got a sub-rogue Point of View, twitch.tv/LawElectro. And Designer, are you going to be streaming?
No, I don't think I have the internet for it. I would, but no. The internet says no.
All right, well, see you guys next time. Later.
Later.